Dystopia warning, obviously. Oh dear. As some of you might be aware, last night GB News broadcast live some of the most shocking examples of misogyny that I've ever seen. Well, I say I saw it go out live. You couldn't pay me to watch that shit. I've said it before, I'll say it again. GB News is dimly lit telly for thick fucks. So what happened then? Well, this all occurred on the Dan Wootton show. You know Dan Wootton, right? Former Sun journalist, if they can be called journalists. Another reason you might be familiar with the name Dan Wootton is because recently Byline Times released a pretty extensive dossier. Some pretty serious sexual allegations were made. And what did GB News do? Absolutely nothing. They kept him on the payroll. He goes out live every night to about 5 viewers. He counts amongst his colleagues serving Tory MPs like Esther McVeigh, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Lee Anderson. And not just that, but GB News allowed him a platform from which he could accuse dark forces and a conspiracy for this dossier of allegations. Sound familiar, does it? Brand. Anyway, he invited on Lawrence Fox. And before I play the clip, this was all pre-arranged via text message that they would talk about this. They laughed and joked about it afterwards in messages, and nobody in the gallery, nobody on the production team thought to intervene and stop this display.
Pass the watershed, so I can say this. Show me a single self-respecting man that would like to climb into bed with that woman, ever, who wasn't an incel, who wasn't a cucked little incel. That little woman has been fed, spoon-fed oppression day after day after day after day, starting with the lie of the gender wage gap. And she sat there and I'm going like, if I met you in a bar and that was like sentence 3, chances of me just walking away are just huge. We need powerful, strong, amazing women who make great points for themselves. We don't need these sort of feminist 4.0. They're pathetic and embarrassing. Who'd want to shag that?
Oh, Lawrence. Well, look,
Wow. Obvious, grotesque examples of misogyny aside, has anyone else noticed that Lawrence Fox is gradually becoming Carl from The Simpsons? I mean, listen to this.
I love it. I am nature's greatest miracle. Go ahead, say it.
I
Trust me, Homer. Take a step and say it.
I deserve this.
Loud.
It's fucking uncanny. I had many emotions listening to that tirade. It varied between uncontrollable rage and pity. Yeah. You see, every woman's encountered a Lawrence Fox. His type are common, predictable, pitiful, commonly rejected. Women are no stranger to insecure, weak-willed little pricks thinking that their substandard penis will cure us of all of our free thinking and opinions. It's pure projection. Any woman with even the tiniest fragment of self-respect would sooner glue herself shut than let his weird, fascistic fingers anywhere near her body. The hilarious thing is that they think that it's even an option for them, isn't it? Men like him really think that women are sitting at home going, oh God, I wish Lawrence Fox would choose me. Why can't I get one? Why won't they shag me? Oh, fucking hell. Fox is what happens when privilege and talentlessness and a sincere lack of consequences collide. He's like the emblem for our national decline, right? A decline, obviously, in which we're rapidly regressing, in which anyone that doesn't resemble him is having their rights systematically reversed. He thinks that he can go on air and reduce a credible journalist to her shaggability, to her physicality, to her attractiveness, to a man, not just because they let him. That's the culture that exists in wider society. They thought it was acceptable to demean and degrade a woman based on a perceived slight rather than focus on her arguments. They couldn't focus on her arguments because the thing that they were trying to come for her on didn't even happen, because she was just a vehicle, an object for their outrage, and they've made a target of her. They've removed her agency, they've removed her consent, they've degraded and reduced her to someone that Lawrence may or may not want to fuck. As a woman, I've been treated this way before countless times, including by Fox, actually. Yeah. He referred to one of my replies as like a passive-aggressive text chat with a soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. I'd say that it's quite telling that even in his little made-up fantasies, the woman's always the ex. But I guess that's to be expected from the most divorced man that's ever been born. It's also telling and interesting that that's the only way that he can frame women, isn't it? Based on their attractiveness or their sexual usefulness to him. Just as a heads up, Lawrence, every woman is sexually unuseful to you because no one wants to fuck you. Yet he saunters about talking about fictional bars and fictional women that he fictionally turns down. Is the unshaggable woman in the room right now, Lawrence? Or are you actually the unshaggable woman? It's like Fight Club, isn't it? Except the entire cast is him and the entire cast is ugly. The first rule of Far Right Club is that you're not really supposed to call it Far Right Club. Now, jokes aside, because I could rinse him all day, this kind of unabashed misogyny has consequences for women. Both I and other women that I know that have put themselves out there, whether they're journalists, whether they're commentators, whether they're satirists, have faced horrific, sustained comments about our physical appearance, about our shaggability, mostly from men that resemble potatoes. And then we've got to look at the effects on wider society. When this is the consequence for women that reject men, why didn't you say no? We do, and we get killed. This is the problem with all those tape bros. This is the problem with all these young men with fucking microphones, calling themselves podcasters, talking about high-value women, low-value women, hitting the wall. All of it based on what they perceive to be our sexual usefulness or our sexual attractiveness, when that's not really something that we're worrying about because we can get laid. But it encourages hate. It encourages abuse. It encourages violence against women. It encourages rape culture. Only insecure, weak men are afraid of feminism because all feminism is equal rights between the sexes. And the serious knock-on effects of what Fox and Wootton, who laughed along, did to Ava is they made a target of a woman that's already had to take a man to court for horrific threats towards her and her family. Another really important point to make on this is that serving Conservative MPs work for this channel. They shouldn't even be allowed to. GB News is a danger to society. And let's not forget Lawrence Fox, a guy that appeared to be encouraging vandalism of ULEZ cameras, a guy that dressed himself and his children in blackface and posted it online, a guy that spews unfiltered misogyny. Get him in the fucking bin. And make some room for Wootton too.